So we have a really big day today, which is exciting. We're actually going into Mexico. I'm hoping to get some really cool footage. We're going to be walking along the Santa Cruz River. Yeah, I think it's going to be a cool day. Hello, it is Shayna, and it is the end of the second day, which was the first full day of being in Nogales from morning until night. And wow, it was jam-packed. We did so much today. So we're here at the wash. We are with Sherry Sass, who is a director at Friends of the Santa Cruz River, and she's telling us about the politics of the water, the treatment of the water, how the water goes from Nogales, Mexico into Nogales, Arizona, and complications that causes of having a shared water source.
Well, I think we learned about that IOI pipe that runs over there.
Yeah.
Underneath that river.
The sewage pipe, right?
Yeah. And how it threatened to leak, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's really weakened in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
And when it gets over flooded, there's so much trash around that it.
Yeah.
Metal.
Oh yeah, because of the flood season and things go through and they can just rip it apart.
No funding for protecting it.
Yeah.
That's something that would cost millions.
Because Mexico doesn't have it.
Or
Yeah.
hundreds
And then
of millions.
The federal government doesn't want to provide it.
Yeah.
Right?
No one wants to
no one wants to pay for it.
But also, reinforcing it isn't that easy either because it's a navigatable river.
Oh yes, that's a navigatable river, meaning that
You can't just slap concrete on top of it.
exactly.
Because
That's illegal.
that's illegal.
And then the federal government will get involved.
Right. Screw.
The second thing we did today was go to Circles of Peace, which was an amazing experience. It's a restorative justice program that focuses on domestic abuse perpetrators. It's actually a domestic abuse treatment center, so people who have committed domestic abuse crimes are told by the court to go to Circles of Peace, and they use a Native American circles model as part of their restorative justice. It's very equity focused, and also solutions focused, and so in the circles no one holds power. There was a talking stick. I found it very inspiring, and especially because it's a very uncommon practice, especially in domestic abuse cases. One of the aspects of the model is to invite the victims of a perpetrator and to invite them to be a part of the circle and be a part of the conversation. But they explained to us that a lot of the times there's lots of domestic abuse that happens where both people still want to be together and they still live together, and the solution that they want is for the abuse to stop and not to get out of the situation. And so in that case, it's really helpful for the victims to be a part of the conversation and to kind of help the perpetrator acknowledge what they've done. And they said that the ultimate goal was to have the perpetrator apologize, and even better, to apologize directly to who they've hurt. All around, it was just a really beautiful thing to learn about, and also about how being on a border affects that, and that the cultural differences and also the legal differences between Mexico and the United States, and how that plays a part. Domestic violence is seen as a crime between two people. It's not, in Mexico, it's not prosecuted in the same way, whereas in Arizona, if someone files a complaint, whether they're a victim or not, the state can prosecute the abuser. Also, it's very different from the court. The normal approach, which is basically focusing on the punishment that someone will incur if they abuse, as opposed to this 26-week program that meets once a week that focuses on anger management, stress management, behavioral changes, breaking the cycles. It's much more empathy focused instead of punishment focused, which leads to them having a very, very high success rate. And that conversation really kind of brought me to a theme that I want to explore this week, of kind of getting rid of a good versus bad dichotomy. I think it really became apparent in this conversation because often we're like abuser, bad, victim, the person who has been hurt. Like it's like one person is bad, one person is good, or one person is innocent. And that they kind of explain that that isn't really always the case, or even often the case, and that it's it's much more complicated than that. And I think these intricacies exist in multiple places, especially somewhere on the border where it can't be seen as an us versus them conflict. It really needs to be seen as a community conflict. Not even a conflict, just more of like trying to take that solutions-based approach. And instead of these solutions being based out of fear, they're based out of logic, they're based out of empathy, and they're based out of data. I think that's something I really want to focus on because, especially with the rhetoric in the United States, it's not showing the personhood. It's very dehumanizing, and I think that that's kind of a disservice, and it's purposeful as well. It's purposeful to make us think that the people crossing the border are rapists and violent and gang members when that is not the majority of the case. Finally, we crossed over the border. We went to Mexico today, which was really exciting for me because I'd never been to Mexico before. I could immediately feel the difference. I think we all could. I'm going to show you some footage, and you really can see that it's different than anywhere I've been in the United States. And it was beautiful, and it was exciting. It was exciting to really experience like that dichotomy. We had been hearing about it, and we heard about it in circles of peace of like people who cross every day, and like that Nogales is really a singular community despite that there is a border. So we went into Mexico. We got to explore around a little bit. It was a really beautiful, really cool experience. And then we went and had dinner, and we got to talk to a bunch of badass women. Oh my gosh, they were so cool. They were all so cool, and I didn't get any footage of this just because I didn't want to be disruptive by filming, but let me just tell you, it was incredible. We got to see a documentary about the personal stories of women and minors who had tried to cross the border and had been deported. So the woman who made the documentary was Christian Renee Navarro, and the documentary was called Sueño Retorno, which is the dream of the return, I'm pretty sure. My Spanish, if you cannot tell by my accent, is not the best. And it was eye-opening. It was eye-opening to see the personhood and to see the people behind what we hear every day of people trying to cross the border, and like really the physical and emotional trauma that they are willing to put themselves through in order to try and get to the United States. And I think that says a lot. I don't know if I could do justice of repeating those stories, but I will definitely link her documentary below. I'm not sure if it's available online, but I'll link her website. It was a really, really powerful documentary. After that, we got to talk to Bianca Acuña Valverde. She works with populations in Nogales such as the trans population, people who use intravenous drugs, HIV positive population, a lot of people who are kind of cast aside in normal society. She's doing work to try and do a needle exchange and to work with underrepresented groups in order to like give them a space, and she was really inspiring. And there's even less infrastructure in Mexico for those kind of organizations than there is in the US, and I think we all know that in the US these are like very underfunded. Similar organizations are very underfunded, so that can give you a little perspective on just how important the work she is doing is. We also talked to Miriam Higuera, and she works in infrastructure and building, and her job is to basically approve apartments before they're put up for sale. But there's a much larger context because the company that she works for does a really focuses on building up not only just buildings but the community, and having activities for children and activities for elderly people, and making sure that this community infrastructure lasts even after they're done building, even after the company leaves, which was really amazing to hear. And I had never really heard about that before. And I asked her if her position was common, and she said not at all. Like, she's really, like, that company that she's working for is the only one that does it. And I thought that's so interesting, and that she said that it increases the community of where the homes are built. It increases the value of the land. So it's like an all-around great, it's an all-around great service, I guess, or a great idea for a company to be doing, because it benefits the company, it benefits the country, and it benefits the people living there. So I found that truly incredible. And there was a lot of things that I observed today that I was like, wow, why is this so rare? Why are these the exceptions and not the rule? Like, especially with the circles of peace. I was like, what? Like, this should be the way things are done. And they really talk about how they have such a high success rate. Anyways, next, Elena Vega. She's an artist. She does her own publishing. She does painting, poetry, dancing, singing. She's just an all-around multimedia artist. And she talked about the difficulties of being a woman and being an artist and making a living as an artist, especially in Nogales. And she was just super awesome. Like, she passed around some of her work, and it was beautiful, and the poetry was incredible, and yeah, she was great. And lastly, we had Jackie Gonzalez Hermosillo. I really apologize, Jackie, if you ever watch this, my pronunciation. But she actually works for Border Youth Tennis Exchange, which is BITE for short. And that is a program that fosters community between both sides of the border through tennis, and by giving children, Mexican and American alike, a place to be when it's not school hours, which is really important for making sure that they stay on the straight and narrow. But like, just because in Circles of Peace, we also talked about how Nogales is a huge drug port. People are drug mules, people are paid to be drug mules, people are unwittingly drug mules, and that a large amount of marijuana comes through Nogales. Like, she said 90%. Like, I don't know if that's right, but I mean, it might be. But so in order to prevent children from becoming drug mules, from getting involved in cartels, that Border Youth Tennis Exchange is there to provide them with new ways to help children learn, and to help them learn in ways that aren't traditional in the school system. So she talked about storytelling as a technique to learn. She talked about like activities as a unique way to learn, and to help children learn without them even knowing that they're learning, which I found really awesome. It was a jam-packed day, and I know I only mentioned 3 activities, but whew, there was like time that we walked around and all that stuff, but yeah, it was a jam-packed day. But yeah, I think I covered everything, which I'm happy about, because I want to go to bed. Okay.